May 1940. The world was on the brink of a massive shift. The German war machine was about to unleash its full fury. The German army smashed through Allied lines with an unprecedented ferocity. Their strategy was clear and devastating. Their advance was lightning fast, a blitzkrieg that left the Allied forces scrambling. British and French forces reeled back towards the English Channel. Panic spread like wildfire. They were trapped, with no clear path to safety. By late May, over 300,000 soldiers were bottled up in the port town of Dunkirk. The situation was dire. Their backs were to the sea, with the enemy closing in. The vast expanse of water seemed both a barrier and a potential escape route. It seemed like the end. Desperation and fear were etched on every face.
I had seen too much already. The horrors of war were all around us. I had witnessed the bombing raids, the relentless attacks from the sky. I had seen my friends fall one by one to the merciless onslaught. Now, I just wanted to go home. The thought of safety and peace seemed like a distant dream.
Tommy reached Dunkirk after days of retreat. He found chaos, a scene of utter disarray. The beach was jammed with soldiers, all hoping for a miracle. Everyone was desperate to escape, to find a way out of this nightmare. Tommy joined the endless queue, a line of hope and despair intertwined. The line snaked towards the harbour, a slow march towards potential salvation. The air was thick with tension, every sound amplified by the fear of the unknown. He could hear the rumble of distant artillery. German planes roared overhead, a constant reminder of the danger. They strafed the beaches and bombed the harbour. Death seemed close, an ever-present shadow. Hope flickered when Tommy saw a hospital ship. It was a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. It was packed with wounded men, a testament to the brutal reality of war. But there was no more room. The ship was full, and hope began to fade. He pleaded with the sailor, desperation in his voice.
Please, there must be space for one more. The plea was heartfelt, a cry for survival.
The sailor shook his head, a silent but firm denial.
No more, lad, we're full. The words were final, crushing any remaining hope.
Tommy's heart sank. The weight of despair was almost unbearable. He was going to be left behind. The realization was a heavy burden, a moment of profound sorrow. Just as Tommy turned away, the ship lurched violently. A bomb exploded nearby, sending shockwaves through the air and rattling the very core of the vessel. The deafening sound of the explosion was followed by a moment of eerie silence before the chaos resumed. Water sprayed everyone on deck, drenching the soldiers and making the wooden planks slippery. The cold, salty water stung their eyes and made it difficult to see. The once orderly deck was now a scene of pandemonium. Tommy was knocked off his feet, his body hitting the deck hard. The impact left him momentarily dazed, his vision blurred and ears ringing. He struggled to regain his bearings amidst the chaos. When he looked up, he saw people screaming. The ship was sinking, tilting dangerously to one side. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. They were in grave danger and time was running out.
I scrambled to my feet, my heart pounding in my chest. I forgot about escaping. I had to help. The instinct to survive was strong, but the need to save my comrades was stronger. I jumped into the churning water, the cold shock taking my breath away. The waves were relentless, crashing over me as I fought to stay afloat. I swam towards the wreckage, my arms and legs burning with the effort. The debris from the ship floated around me, a grim reminder of the destruction. Around me, men cried out in terror. Some were wounded, their cries of pain mingling with the roar of the sea. The water was tinged with blood, a stark contrast to the dark waves. Others struggled to stay afloat, their faces etched with fear and desperation. The strong currents pulled at them, threatening to drag them under. I spotted a young soldier struggling in the water. He was panicking, his movements frantic and uncoordinated. I recognized him immediately. It was Alex, a lad from my company. "Alex, grab my hand!" I shouted, reaching out to him. His eyes locked onto mine, a glimmer of hope in his terrified gaze.
Alex reached out, his hand trembling as he grasped mine. The connection was tenuous, but it was enough. His eyes were wide with fear, reflecting the chaos around us. Tommy pulled him close, holding on tightly as the waves threatened to separate them. He fought to keep them both above water, his muscles straining with the effort. The sea was merciless, but their determination was stronger. They clung to a piece of driftwood, their lifeline in the tumultuous sea. The wood was rough and splintered, but it was their only hope. They watched the hospital ship disappear beneath the waves, a sinking monument to the horrors of war. The sight was both heartbreaking and terrifying. Tommy felt a surge of despair, the weight of their situation pressing down on him. The odds seemed insurmountable. He had survived the bombs, the chaos, and the sinking ship. But now what? The future was uncertain, and the path to safety seemed impossibly far. Would they ever get off this beach? The question lingered in the air, unanswered and haunting. The vast expanse of the sea stretched out before them, a daunting barrier between them and home. News of the evacuation spread like wildfire across the nation. The urgency was palpable. The British government was sending every available ship, naval destroyers, minesweepers, even pleasure boats. It was a call to arms for every seafaring vessel, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. It was a desperate gamble, a race against time and the advancing enemy.
I heard the call. It was a call that resonated deep within me. I was a retired sailor and owned a small pleasure craft. I didn't hesitate. I knew my duty. The sea had been my life, and now it was calling me back for one final mission. I gathered some supplies and set off with my son, John. We packed food, water, and medical supplies, knowing the journey would be fraught with danger.
They sailed into the English Channel. The sea was choppy, waves crashing against the hulls of the small boats. The sky was filled with smoke, a grim reminder of the battle raging on the shores of Dunkirk. As they approached Dunkirk, they were met with a scene of utter chaos. The beaches were crowded with soldiers, desperate to escape. Thousands of men were in the water, their eyes filled with a mix of hope and despair. They clung to anything that floated, debris, rafts, and even each other, trying to stay afloat. The air was thick with the stench of diesel and fear. The sound of gunfire and explosions was a constant backdrop. Dawson steered his boat carefully through the wreckage, avoiding the floating debris and bodies.
We began pulling men from the sea, one by one. Each face told a story of survival and hope. Each trip back to the larger ships was perilous. The waves were relentless, and the threat of enemy fire was ever present. German planes harried us constantly, their engines roaring overhead as they strafed the waters. But my father never faltered. His hands were steady on the wheel, his eyes focused on the task at hand. He knew that every life saved was a victory. Each soldier we pulled from the water was a testament to our resolve and courage.
Overhead, the Royal Air Force fought for control of the skies. Spitfires and Hurricanes tangled with German Messerschmitts. The roar of their engines was a constant backdrop to the evacuation.
Flight Lieutenant Collins was leading a squadron of Spitfires. Our mission was to protect the evacuation fleet. We were outnumbered, but we were determined. Collins scanned the skies. He spotted a group of German bombers heading towards the beaches. Bandits at 10 o'clock. Let's go and get them.
Collins dived his Spitfire into the attack, machine guns blazing. He managed to down one of the bombers, but his own plane was hit. Smoke billowed from the engine. Collins struggled to maintain control. He knew he couldn't make it back to England. He aimed his crippled plane towards the beach. He crash-landed. He stumbled out of the wreckage, dazed but alive. He had bought precious time for the evacuation.